Acts 27. And when it was determined that we should sail for Italy, they delivered Paul and certain other prisoners to a centurion named Julius, of the Augustan cohort. And embarking in a ship of Adramyttium that was about to sail for the places on the coast of Asia, we put to sea. Aristarchus, a Macedonian from Thessalonica, was with us. The next day we stopped at Sidon, and Julius treated Paul kindly and gave him permission to visit his friends and be refreshed. And putting to sea from there, we sailed under the lee of Cyprus, because the winds were against us. When we had sailed across the sea that is off Cilicia and Pamphylia, we came to Myra, a city of Lycia. And there the centurion found a ship of Alexandria sailing for Italy, and he put us on board. After we had sailed slowly many days and arrived with difficulty off Cnidus, the wind was not allowing us to go further, so we sailed under the lee of Crete across from Salmone. After sailing past it with difficulty we came to a certain place called Fair Havens, near the city of Lasea. By this time much time had passed and the voyage was now dangerous, since the fast was now already past. So Paul admonished them and said to them, Sirs, I perceive that the voyage will result in damage and much loss, not only of the cargo and the ship, but also of our lives. But the centurion gave more heed to the captain and to the owner of the ship than to what Paul said. And because the harbor was not suitable to winter in, most of the crew wanted to put to sea from there and try to reach Phoenix if at all possible and winter there. Phoenix was a harbor of Crete that faced northeast and southeast. And when the south wind blew softly, they figured they could reach their goal, so they weighed anchor and sailed along Crete, close to the shore. But not long after this a terrible wind called the northeaster blew in. Since the ship was caught and could not face the wind, we gave way to it and were driven by it. Running under the lee of a small island called Cauda, we managed with great difficulty to keep the boat under control. When they had hoisted it up, they took measures to undergird the ship. Then, fearing they might run aground on the Syrtis, they lowered the anchor and so were driven. And as we labored exceedingly with the storm, the next day they began to throw the freight overboard, and the third day they cast out with their own hands the tackling of the ship. And when neither sun nor stars appeared for many days, and no small tempest raged against us, all hope that we should be saved was now lost. And when they had gone without food for a long time, Paul stood in the midst of them, and said, Sirs, you should have listened to me and not set sail from Crete and suffered this injury and loss. And now I urge you to be of good cheer. For there will be no loss of life among you, but only of the ship. For there stood by me this night an angel of the God to whom I belong, whom also I serve, and he said, Do not fear, Paul. You must stand before Caesar. And indeed, God has granted safety to all who sail with you. So take heart, men, for I have faith in God that it will turn out exactly as it has been told to me. But we must run aground on some island. When the 14th night had come, as we were driven to and fro in the sea of Adria, about midnight the sailors suspected that they were drawing near to some land. And they took soundings and measured 20 fathoms. A little further they took soundings again and measured 15 fathoms. Fearing that we might be driven onto the rocks, they let down 4 anchors from the stern and prayed for the day to arrive. When the sailors were seeking to escape from the ship and had lowered the boat into the sea, under the guise of letting down anchors from the bow, Paul said to the centurion and to the soldiers, Unless these men stay in the ship, you cannot be saved. Then the soldiers cut away the ropes of the boat and set it adrift. And while the day was coming on, Paul urged them all to eat some food and said, This day is the 14th day that you have been waiting and going without food, having eaten nothing. Therefore I urge you to eat some food, for it will help you survive. For none of you will lose a hair from your heads." And after he had said this, he took bread and gave thanks to God in the presence of all. And he broke it and began to eat. Then they were all encouraged and took some food themselves. All of us on the ship numbered 276 people. And when they had eaten their fill, they lightened the ship by throwing the wheat into the sea. And when daylight came, they did not recognize the land. But they noticed a bay with a beach, and they made plans to drive the ship upon it. Casting off the anchors, they left them in the sea, and at the same time they loosened the ropes that tied the steering oars. Then hoisting up the foresail to the wind, they made for the beach. But they struck a reef and ran the vessel aground, and the bow struck and remained immovable, but the stern began to break up from the force of the waves. And the soldiers' plan was to kill the prisoners, lest any of them should swim away and escape. But the centurion, wishing to save Paul, dissuaded them from their plan and ordered that those who could swim should jump overboard and be the first to head for the land. The rest would follow, some on planks, and others on pieces of the ship. And so it happened that they all arrived safely on land.